Hello everyone, we want to take you back in time to the Holocaust, 1933 to be exact. I know you're probably thinking, I've heard about this event millions of times, but the truth is, it's so much more that happened that you were never taught. So today, we're going to introduce you to a few different groups of people who were also affected by the Holocaust. So sit back and enjoy. The famous Adolf Hitler. Hitler was known for torturing and killing about 6 million Jews. One of the world's most known genocides, the Holocaust. We're here today to broaden your range and knowledge about the 5 million other people who were also killed. On September 1st, 1939, the Nazi invaded Poland. Poland housed about 35 million people, and 3 million of those people were Jewish. This was the beginning of World War II. During the invasion of Poland, 2 million of people who were killed were not Jewish, but they were treated as so. The Nazis immediately started stripping them of their culture and their rights, from their language to their street signs, and forcing their young men to join their army. Life as they knew it was gone. From that day forward, the Polish was forced to live in ghettos until they were shipped off to labor camps. Not once did they stop and think that maybe all these people here were not Jewish, but they did not care. Hitler came with one mission only, and that was to rid the world of Jews. He was going to do just that.
Among the other victims of the Holocaust were politicians. The political prisoners can be recognized as communists, socialists, and trade unionists. They were identified with wearing red triangles. After being defeated, members of KDP, a communist party, were arrested, started within their own headquarters, and were sent to Dachau, the first concentration camp. About 3.5 million communists were killed during the Holocaust. Nazi Germany established Reichskommissariat Ottoman, which was previously German-occupied Soviet territory. RKO was used for the occupation of civilians. Soviet soldiers were used for labor at concentration camps, but due to mistreatment and executions, about 3 million died at the hands of the Nazis.
Because of their lifestyle, others didn't understand them and became suspicious of them. They were also labeled racially undesirable and antisocial, which made them an easy target for the Nazis to wipe them out. In 1935, Nuremberg law stated that gypsies couldn't marry Germans, and later enclosed the Roman gypsy tribes with barbed wire fences, and they were forbidden to leave. Then eventually deported to concentration camps where they were forced to cut their hair so they wouldn't be able to recognize each other. Nearly 1.5 million Roman gypsies were killed between the times of 1939 and 1945. In December 1942, Governor General Hans Frank, SS Chief Heinrich Himmler, and Reinhard Heydrich ordered deportation of all gypsies. Gypsies knew they were a target. Some escaped underground while others were forced to camps. Protesters and everyone who disagreed with the Nazis were also deported to camp. The pie chart shows exactly how many different groups of people were killed during the Holocaust. The map shows the places where the gypsies were taken from, and the pink star shows exactly where the main concentration camp was for the gypsies. Dr. Joseph Mengele was the head physician of gypsy camps. He experimented on twins by injecting one twin's blood into another twin to see what type of reaction he would get. He would put dye in their eyes to see if they would change colors, and he also tried to sew twins' bodies together. Dr. Mengele also ran a butcher shop killing people for joy, but the people who weren't being experimented on were shot by the guards. Gypsy badges were black at first because they were seen as a social, but later was changed to brown to keep them separated from the original social groups. After the Holocaust, it took almost 70 years for people to put up a memorial site for the Roman gypsy victims. The memorial site is located in Berlin, Germany, designed by Dan Coven and officially opened on the 24th of October 2012 by the German Chancellor Angela Merkel.
Gay men were targeted for persecution of homosexuals because they were viewed to be carriers of a contagion that weakened society and did not contribute to their desired growth of the Aryan population between 1933 and 1945. An estimated 100,000 men were arrested for violating Nazi Germany's law against homosexuals, and of these, 50,000 were sentenced to prison or a concentration camp on similar charges, and an unknown number of them were perished. In the camps, prisoners wore badges. In order to categorize different groups of people, homosexuals wore downward-facing pink triangles on their jackets. The same badge was used to identify sexual offenders, including rapists and pedophiles. Due to homophobia, especially towards gay men, death rates for homosexuals in the camps were higher than any other non-Jewish group. Anyone wearing a pink triangle faced abuse from the prisoners and were usually exterminated during the first few months of imprisonment. Many of them were killed through the policy of extermination through work. They were used as target practice by SS soldiers. They were used as science experiments by Nazi doctors who were attempting to locate the gay gene and find a cure for homosexuals. After Germany's concentration camps were finally shut down and the prisoners were released, the injustice wasn't over for everyone. While others were being released, gay people could be re-imprisoned because they were still classified as criminals. Many homosexuals were forced to serve jail time regardless of how long they spent in concentration camps. Others were forced to undergo conversation therapy or even chemical or surgical castration. In 2002, the German government acknowledged the treatment of homosexuals during the Holocaust and issued an apology to the gay community. In 2008, a memorial for homosexuals who died in Nazi concentration camps was built across the main Holocaust memorial for Jewish victims in Berlin.
In the 1920s, around 24,000 black people were living in Germany. African-German mixed-race children were economically and socially marginalized in German society and not allowed to attend university. Racial discrimination prohibited them from seeking most jobs, including service in the military. Black prisoners of war faced illegal incarceration and mistreatment at the hands of the Nazis, who did not uphold the regulations imposed by the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention was an international agreement on the conduct of war and the treatment of wounded and captured soldiers. American and European blacks were also interned in the Nazi concentration camp system. Some African Americans caught in German-occupied Europe during World War II also became victims of the Nazi regime. With the Nazi rise to power, blacks became a target of racial and population policy. By 1937, the Gestapo, which is German secret state police, had secretly rounded up and forcibly sterilized many black people. The fate of black people from 1933 to 1945 in Nazi Germany and in German-occupied territories ranged from isolation to persecution, sterilization, medical experimentation, incarceration, brutality, and murder. Many of the relatively small number of black people who lived in Germany under the Nazi regime were persecuted, alienated, and murdered during this period.
By the end of 1945, 75,000 mentally and physically disabled people were murdered out of mercy by the Nazi regime. The leaders of these euthanasia programs were Philip Buehler, the director of Hitler's private chancellery, and Karl Brandt, Hitler's attending physician. Among those killed were people with blindness, deafness, epilepsy, manic depression, schizophrenia, and those with severe visible disabilities. To determine who was to be killed, Nazis sent out questionnaires to hospitals for doctors to fill out. From there, Nazis convinced parents of children with these conditions to send them to treatment centers, which were really starvation centers. Babies who were identified to have some of these disabilities were left to freeze to death in the cold. It is said in the book Forgotten Crimes by Suzanne Evans that the starvation center, headed by Dr. Herman van Muller, gave tours to the public to show just how different those children were and why they needed to die. But when questioned about it, he denied everything. Nazi doctors used the term Ausschuskinder, which literally translates to garbage children, to describe the patients under their so-called care. Disabled adults were also subject to mercy killings. Nazi doctors would place them into therapeutic breathing rooms, which were really gas chambers where they were murdered. The doctors at Hadmar, one of the adult euthanasia centers, hosted a party which included a mock funeral at the cremation of the 10,000th disabled man killed in the gas chambers. Disabled people went through unimaginable pain and suffering through the Holocaust, yet the crimes committed against them to this day are not acknowledged by the German government.
If I was stuck throughout there in the Nazi Holocaust, they kill me out of mercy, leg and lungs would be the costly. I keep on falling, don't know why, and yeah, I'm trying to fix it. As for my lungs, got asthma, breathing for me is an issue. If I was a kid, they'd have fed me little less they can. They called me worthless, they'd have threw me in a garbage can. If I was a baby, they'd have left me to die in the cold. Cause I'm disabled, don't deserve to grow up and get old. Now if you're able and you're white and pure and straight and strong, they'll take you on a tour, see the stuff they doing wrong, and you wouldn't mind it cause you love your soul, your mind, and life. And if you ain't like it, they be at your throat come in the night, and they take you on the trucks, they gas the kids and babes and moms. And if you ain't like it, then they'll take you and tell you to join in. You asking questions on your tool like why these babies starving. They broke and stupid, we don't need no tainted kindergarten. Don't make no sense for them to grow up and have garbage babies. We have to kill them out of mercy and of course to save the race of intelligence, manipulative relevance. The masters of hierarchy cause crippling anxiety. The same thing we'll kill you for, we lock you up and pill you for. The great race of Aryan, the great master Germans, and we lie to their mamas, their daddies, their sisters and brothers. Tell them their baby died from sickness or for something other than what we put them through. We don't really care if they're mad at our master plan to cure them of the plague their children brought in. That's why these kids are starving. That's why these cribs are locked in. That's why the food is cut off. That's why the heat is shut off. That's why I would have died had I been living through that time, cause I still don't know what's wrong. They would have fixed it with the soul. They would have fixed it with the gas. They would have fixed it with the food, cause what they really trying to do ain't trying to fix them like brand new. Try to fix hallucinating by starving babes and cremating. Then they go on celebrating like a king on holiday and babysitting, salivating at the food like in their faces, and they dance upon the ashes. May I ask who the real trash is?
We cannot forget that these were not the only people affected by the Holocaust. Slavic people, Jehovah's Witnesses, religious leaders, members of opposing political parties, and anyone who went against the regime was persecuted. You may be thinking, why are we telling you this information? Have you ever heard the phrase, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it? Let's not condemn ourselves with ignorance. And let's not forget those who survived and those who died because of the atrocities they suffered.